Hey everybody, happy almost end of April. Welcome to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I'm Jordan Smith. We hope you all had a good Easter if you chose to celebrate it. For this episode, we decided to just have some fun with it and just go over some of our favorite or memorable SpongeBob quotes.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of you can think of a million of them. There are so many that keep getting mentioned in one thing or another. I know like a lot of you are probably millennials and probably like us grew up with a lot of SpongeBob on Nickelodeon, whether it was on DVD, blank cassette, or even on occasion at least cable television.
Yeah, and this could easily be because of that something that ends up being a multi-part series because there's just so many episodes, so many quotes. We could spend an entire episode talking about a single episode, depending on which one. But this is really just a compilation of some of the first quotes that we liked that came to our minds.
Yeah. And I over a few days I wrote down like a whole pretty big list of them.
Oh yeah, I did too. In fact, I had to stop myself after a while.
Oh yeah, too many?
Oh yeah, for sure. Uh, and the first one I immediately thought of is from the episode "Something Smells." By the way, this is in no episodic order. This is just first come, first serve, and the ones in my brain. But again, this is "Something Smells." Patrick is trying to cheer him up, and then he tells him the infamous ugly barnacle story.
Right.
I
Which
say,
pretty much ends as quickly as it begins.
oh yeah, I think it lasts all about 10, maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's called the ugly barnacle. Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
And as you can imagine, that didn't help at all. Which SpongeBob literally says like immediately after.
Yep, there's maybe a couple beats of the song in the background, and SpongeBob says those exact words.
Yeah.
But it's like it's one of those quotes where it's so random, and that's what makes it so funny.
Right. I feel like the whole show pretty much overall thrives, for lack of a better word, on absurdist humor. Like the kind of humor that is so ridiculous that it works, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just something you don't expect. In fact, I think it was I can't remember which VeggieTales special it was, but there was something where Larry was like,
It's funny because it's unexpected.
Right, the wonderful world of autotainment. Yeah, I saw
yes.
that one.
But yeah, there's several quotes like that. I'm sure we'll both be bringing up.
Yeah.
But next one I thought of was from it's kind of a two-parter just because both quotes involve a certain word that Plankton says. Um, and this one comes from his debut episode, actually, where he first meets SpongeBob, tries to convince him to work with him or like be friends with him. And he says something like, and do you know what I want more than anything in the whole wide world?
A booster seat?
Booster seat hot dog. I mean, no. And then when SpongeBob catches onto him, he's like, gee, and I thought you were stupid. It's like if you debut a character and you already have him saying hilarious things, then you know he's going to be a long running character.
Yeah. And yeah, he has stuck around a while.
Yeah, I know he wasn't in the very first episode. I want to say it was one of the first 5 or 6.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, he's been in it ever since, and I think he either is about to or just did have his own movie of sorts.
Yeah, I
I
think I
think.
might have vaguely heard of this.
'Cause there was
Plankton the movie. Yeah, in fact, oh, is it out already?
I don't know. I've heard stuff about it, some screenshots, and maybe even a trailer here and there, but I didn't know much else. I know there was a movie not too long ago that had Sandy as one of the main characters.
Oh, yeah, I looked it up. It was released on Netflix on March 7th of this year. So,
So,
yeah, about a month and a half ago.
oh, if I had Netflix, I'd definitely check it out just because I'm intrigued. But yeah, long story short, Plankton had a great start, and he definitely deserves to stick around. And then the next two I thought of were both from one of the most popular episodes, Band Geeks. The, and actually, they're one right after another, I'm pretty sure. And the first one comes when Squidward has a theory that if they play loud, it'll sound good. Then they all let out one big blast. His face is all distorted, and he just goes, "Okay, new theory. Maybe we should play so quietly no one can hear us." And then it's immediately followed up by the whole thing where one guy's talking to Mr. Krabs, and he's just like, "Big, meaty claws." I mean, again, that's one of those episodes where I'm sure we could talk about for an entire episode because there's just so many good things about it. But those were the first two moments that came to my mind. And of course, you got the well known song that came out of it, which became so popular and so recognized that people demanded that it was played at the Super Bowl right after Hillenberg passed away.
Which it kind of was, but it wasn't. But, what the heck.
I mean, technically speaking, they said it was going to be featured, and it was. However, the way they teased it made it sound like they were going to play the whole song when all they really did was play the first few notes, and they even skipped one or two in the intro with the trumpets just to introduce some other performer, which a lot of people took as a big slap in the face or a big middle finger to Hillenberg's legacy.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of an insult, but yeah. But, yeah, I forgive it.
Yeah. But then moving on, I then thought of the episode Life of Crime, and I think this is partly because I was quoting it not too long ago, anyways. But this comes after SpongeBob and Patrick are on the run, and SpongeBob shows that he actually saved a couple of candy bars for them. Patrick eats his immediately, then thinks SpongeBob stole it, and SpongeBob keeps insisting, "I didn't take it, I didn't take it." And then there's this comedic camera shot panning up and down Patrick while he just goes, "You took my only food. Now I'm gonna starve."
Yeah, you can clearly tell he's eaten it. It's caught up with him by now, and he's got the mess on his face. So he's if he's trying to fool anybody, it ain't working.
No, you could clearly see just a few seconds before that he ate it and all the chocolate smudging was on his face. But then the camera pans down to show that he's definitely been eating more than just a candy bar. Then I thought of another few uh, Patrick quotes. This one comes from, I think it's called Rockabye Bivalve, or not sure how you.
Bible, I think is the way to say it, but I'm not 100% sure. Take it with a grain of salt.
I mean, it makes sense because bi is like two and valve, put them together, you got the clam. But it's
Easier probably if they included a hyphen.
right. But for those who don't know that episode by name, excuse me, it's the one where Patrick and SpongeBob come across a little baby scallop, and they decide to take it in and raise it as if they were its parents until it learns how to fly. And when they are deciding who's going to be the mom or dad, Patrick initially says that he wants to be the mom, but then SpongeBob explains why he couldn't. And this is a very similar camera shot to the "I'm gonna starve" line, because it kind of overemphasizes how big Patrick is. And it's just like, you're right. If I was a mom, this would be kind of shocking. And there's like a drum sound effect that happens when he says that, which somehow just makes it even funnier.
Yeah, it's like Patrick is briefly hypothetically feminized for a second anatomically to kind of make the point, and it's a bit of a weird visual for a moment, but thankfully it doesn't last too long.
No, it's only about like 5 seconds, maybe.
Now, I have a kind of an interesting, kind of a weird question. Did it ruin scallops for you, or was it like before you ever ate scallops? Like the latter would be my case, but I don't know. I admit it's a weird question, but
I mean, I don't know if I'd say it ruined it for me. When it comes to like shellfish, like clams or scallops or anything like that, I wasn't too big into them anyway. Uh, but I feel like even if I was, this wouldn't spoil that. Because I mean, it's a cartoon and they're doing some funny slapstick shenanigans and whatnot.
yeah, well, I think this was probably I probably initially saw that one before I really personally got into seafood, so I feel like it was pretty much inconsequential. I don't know. I feel like generally I'll leave faces on food unless it's like something like Veggie Tales or something like that. I guess kind of made me a little uncomfortable.
Sure,
But
I get that.
yeah, but in this case, I feel like at least my initial viewing or any time it wasn't really in this case consequential for me. So
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can definitely understand that. Um, and then I somehow didn't think of this as the first one because this is probably one of the most recognizable lines in the entire show, partly because of how much it's been quoted, how many times Patrick says it, and how many times it's been used in various memes. And this is the ever so popular point where Patrick is trying to get an award. He works at the Krusty Krab, picks up the phone multiple times, and each time gets more irritated when they ask him if it's the Krusty Krab, and he just goes, "No, this is Patrick. I'm not a Krusty Krab."
yeah.
One of my favorite memes, actually, that comes from that is when they combined it with the movie 300, and Patrick says, "No, this is Patrick," in response to Leonidas saying, "This is Sparta."
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know if I saw that or not. I can't remember, but yeah, but that is kind of funny though.
Yeah, if I remember after the episode's done, I'll send you a link to it.
Yeah.
And I'll be kind of going back and forth for a moment between this episode, which by the way is called Big Pink Loser, and another one called Pressure.
Mm.
And the next one is from Pressure. This one particularly when I mean they're kind of one after another ish. Like they're in the same scene. Like after Sandy tries to prove to the sea creatures that land creatures are better, she removes her suit underwater, helmet and all, and she stands there all confidently. And of course, after Patrick goes, "Sandy's a girl," you get SpongeBob going, "Wow, you sure proved us wrong. I guess land creatures are better." Sees bubbles coming out of her mouth and just follows it up with, "At least until they need to breathe." It's like, this is one of the few times where I feel like SpongeBob was getting really snarky towards somebody, at
Or
least that I
savage,
remember.
or savage. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. And then a quote that follows it up soon after is when Sandy now has a pickle jar on her head to kind of substitute for her now broken helmet. And then she's like, okay, you guys had your fun, but now I want to see you guys go up on dry land. And for some reason, the following line makes me laugh, where Squidward goes, do we have to wear pickle jars? Again, I'm not entirely sure what makes it funny, but this is one of two lines that I can think of where somebody says the word pickle and somehow the delivery of it just makes it hilarious. And I'll get to the other one in a second, but I've always loved when Squidward says that.
Yeah.
And then reverting back to Big Pink Loser for a second, this is another example of a really random line. In fact, I would dare say it's one of the most random lines in the show, at least from early on. And it's, again, so random that it's hilarious. Where before Patrick decides on trying to get a job at the Krusty Krab, he has to think of what he wants to do in order to get an award. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth, like he just stands up and he just goes, I want to defeat the giant monkey man and save the ninth dimension. So it's so random, so hilarious, and it's gotten me to really wish I could meet the writers of that particular episode for that line and think, what was the idea leading into something so obscure?
I mean, when I heard that, I just thought like, I don't know, comic book heroes, that kind of thing. And they do play that sort of music in the background that calls to mind like those old campy, like superhero cartoons or whatever, you know. So I feel like, well, at least that's what it brought to my mind early on.
It definitely had that like superhero sci-fi type thing going on for a second. And I think it continues with this following line where he just says like something similar on a smaller scale when he's like, I want to defeat the little monkey man and save the eighth dimension.
Yeah.
Let's see, I got a few more, I think three. The first of those three is from Walking Small. And this is a double line because there were two that I really loved that it was hard to choose between. The first being when Plankton first gets to the beach and then no one's listening to him and he just goes, it's becoming increasingly obvious. I can deny it no longer. I am small. It's like, yeah, that's very obvious, which is why it's so funny. And then after he recruits SpongeBob to help him, or at least he starts to, a guy sits on SpongeBob. Plankton tries to teach him what to say, how to say it. And when he's not doing it successfully at first, he's like, no, be assertive. And SpongeBob, for whatever reason, puts his finger in the guy's pocket. And Plankton just goes, not insertive. I think it was partially helped by what SpongeBob did.
Yeah.
But yeah, that delivery from Plankton was just awesome. Okay, and then the last one I had is from I'm Your Biggest Fanatic. And this is another example of somebody saying the word pickle that really somehow makes the line really funny to me. And it's after SpongeBob first lays eyes on his hero, Kevin the Sea Cucumber, and shows it off to Patrick. It's like, there he is. And after describing who he is and what he is, Patrick just kind of bored sounds. He sounds bored when he just goes, what's so great about a nerdy pickle? And again, that's another episode with a bunch of stuff in there, like Patrick touching everything, or everything that SpongeBob does to try and please Kevin, or just anytime the anchovies go, wah, wah, wah.
Which was probably my favorite part of the whole episode, that little horn there.
Yeah. But yeah, I could easily go on and on about any one of these episodes, all the quotes from them, or just different quotes entirely. But those are all the ones I have for right now.
All right. Yeah, I had a few, and most all of them, I believe, are Patrick quotes because I don't know. I think there's just something about like his voice and his delivery that a lot of combined with certain phrases that just really gets me in particular. Um, and first one is from boating school. So the context is um, SpongeBob taking his boating test for the 39th time. I had to check that real quick. Um, and taking he's about to do what he does on impulse, like floor it, bury the accelerator pedal,
Yep.
in the nick of time when Patrick catches him, stops him, freeze, mister, big toe. And the toe rips out and gently pedals the gas pedal.
What's really funny about that, and it's already funny as it is that there's this YouTube channel I follow. Every NFL season, they use clips from SpongeBob to demonstrate or represent different moments that happened during each week of the NFL. And I think it was the Ravens who were playing the Chiefs. The Ravens basically lost because the guy's toe was out of bounds. So I recommended that they use this very clip to represent that, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting because, not too long ago, Nickelodeon started broadcasting NFL games and using characters mostly from SpongeBob. And they did that with the Super Bowl about a couple years ago. I don't know. I told you about that. Did you see like the highlights, of the SpongeBob Super Bowl, the Niners and Chiefs?
I do remember watching it. I may have to go back and look at it again though, because it's been a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, basically, they kind of superimposed a few of the familiar Nickelodeon characters, some special visual effects for like when they would score touchdowns. They do like CGI slime, cool creative stuff like that. It's and commentary by SpongeBob and Patrick. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to watch it again because it's such a cool concept on its own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, and you've probably mentioned this one before in some of our conversations, like from the episode Ark. All right, I'll take where SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mr. Krabs are on treasure hunting. And Mr. Krabs is like, all right, well, the X should be right here, 10,000 paces east. And Patrick says, oh, I thought you said west. And you can tell it makes me laugh. Man, because, oh man, something, it makes sense, but you didn't really think of it. West.
West, what kind of compass are you reading, lad?
This one, sir.
That's west, Patrick. You're fired again.
Right, right.
I'm surprised myself that I didn't think of that one, especially because a good use of that joke, somebody used it to create a new supposed Disney movie where it has Patrick and Belle, and it's called Disney and or Beauty and the Beast.
I know. I know. Just the word. It's about as funny as any word made up in a Dr. Seuss book for me.
You know what? I can definitely, yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. That's pretty much a Dr. Seuss word.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably a big part of the reason why this one works so well as a joke is because of the context around it. during the Fry Cook Games episode, SpongeBob and Patrick kind of arguing back and forth, and like, I think at one point Patrick just blurts out, "Holes, holes."
Yeah, when they're trying to yell back and forth at each other and what's wrong with the other one.
Yeah. Just trying to make sick burns that aren't exactly sick burns in terms of execution, but yeah, that'd be like if you were to just start yelling at somebody, nostrils, nostrils, DNA, existence.
You're not wrong. I mean, they go as far as just to say what color the other person is.
Pink, yellow. Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, that's definitely a good one for sure. That whole segment, like when he's like,
You don't even have fingernails.
Yeah. And probably this one for similar reasons. One like this one from the early episode Naughty Nautical Neighbors, where Squidward kind of messes with SpongeBob and Patrick's heads by communicating with them through popping bubbles. And SpongeBob and Patrick start going back and forth. And one point, Patrick says, "You're still yellow. And you know what else is yellow? You are." Yeah.
that is essentially a more elaborate burn, elaborate version of the burn from Fry Cook Games.
Yeah.
And what really is fun about that episode and that line in particular is I actually read what was essentially the book version of that episode before I saw the actual episode.
Yeah.
And when I finally saw the animated version, I was able to quote a lot of it because it was in the book. So I knew exactly how it was going to go. And one of the lines that I loved saying was that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like he calls him a turkey, even though neither of them have any idea what that is.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there are no turkeys in the ocean.
Yeah, they've occasionally had a land animal there, but I don't think a turkey has ever been one of them.
No. We got a squirrel underwater. We could, give them a helmet, get a turkey down there or something.
Yeah, that is true.
Right. And then another one happens not too long after that in the same episode. Patrick resuscitates Squidward after he chokes on his own fork. And as soon as the fork is dislodged, Patrick just catches it and goes, "I win." Which begs the obvious question, win what? But I don't care, though.
I mean, there is the small possibility that he was talking about winning the friendship with Squidward, but I think he's also looking at the camera when he says that, which makes it even funnier. I don't know why, but when they look at the screen and do something random like that, it just makes it super funny.
Yeah. And then another one from the episode Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm, which is kind of like I kind of describe it as kind of a Godzilla story, except with a worm as the beast in this case. And the quote perhaps isn't quite as funny as the whole idea around it. Basically, Patrick has suggested the idea of them literally pushing the city to another location, and he's leading a group of citizens in pushing the city one little step at a time. Push, push. One slow little step at a time.
And what makes that line even funnier is that when he first suggests the idea, it's like they're all like totally against it. Like, we're gonna die if we try something like that. And then right at the end of the episode, even after the worm's been subdued, Mr. Krabs is like, "Now, what was that idea of yours?" And then it just cuts to them actually pushing the entire city to another location, only to have it destroyed by the worm.
Yeah. And then another one from the episode Survival of the Idiots, where it starts to snow in Sandy's tree dome. SpongeBob and Patrick get trapped in there after getting themselves into some kind of trouble. Well, they try to open the door to get out, and Patrick gets this pretty goofy impromptu idea to just open sesame.
Well, I've done all I can do. What always interested me about that moment, aside from how funny it is that there's a couple shots where, as he's doing that, he's making these really weird facial expressions that you don't normally see him do. They're very brief, like blink and you'll miss it. But as he's about to say open sesame, like the way he's drawn just looks really weird. But I think that adds to the humor. Like he doesn't even physically try to open the door. He just says open sesame, it doesn't work. And he's like, well, done everything I can.
Yeah.
Classic line for sure.
Yeah. And this is a Squidward line again from Naughty Nautical Neighbors. This was part of Squidward's kind of messing with them through popping bubbles to communicate with them. He says to Patrick, I heard there was a job opening down at the pet shop as some newspaper. Man, if you can imagine what that is supposed to mean, I think you're gonna crack up.
Yeah, part of me does want to explain the joke, but I think for now it'd be even funnier if I just didn't and see if the audience can try to figure it out. Because like if you've been in a pet shop before, or if you've owned certain pets yourself, then you definitely understand what that would mean. But otherwise, I think it's even funnier if we just don't explain the joke.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. And so, and then this is one from the episode. It's a later episode in the series, Pranks-a-Lot. SpongeBob and Patrick get some invisibility spray, and they can end up turning themselves invisible with it. So it's kind of like what Tom and Jerry once did with vanishing cream, except it's with a can of aerosol spray. So then they get this idea to kind of like mess with pretty much everybody around town into thinking they're being invaded by ghosts, and eventually gets to this montage of just people screaming, ghosts, ghosts. And then one guy just holds up a piece of toast and says, ghost.
That was one thing that SpongeBob has been really good at. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've seen this in a lot of other media as well. But SpongeBob, the show, really did well with it, where they would kind of run with a joke for a little bit and then just completely disrupt it with something else entirely. And that's a perfect example of that. It's like they're making this joke where everyone's shouting ghost, and then just one guy just folds up a piece of toast. It seems simple and ridiculous, but that's why it's funny, because it's so vastly different from everything else that just happened.
It's a curveball.
Yeah, exactly. Like even the characters themselves will acknowledge that sometimes. Like in the Fry Cook Games episode that we talked about, when Plankton and Mr. Krabs are charging towards each other, it looks like they're about to get into the serious brawl. Then they suddenly start breaking into a musical number style montage. And then Plankton interrupts that again. And he literally just goes, I love messing things up.
Oh, yeah.
There was one thing about Pranks-a-Lot that I thought of, because I want to say it's just something they missed, like a little animation error, but it's at the moment where SpongeBob and Patrick have been exposed to the rest of the town by Mr. Krabs, and then you see Sandy whistle, like she uses her fingers up to her mouth like that, and she whistles. But I'm thinking that shouldn't be physically possible because she would have to reach through her glass helmet in order to do that. But again, maybe it's just some animation error, but I think it just adds to it. But definitely the ghost toast thing is one of the highlights of that episode.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I had. So I think we can call it a day right now, and you can keep up with my updates on Seth_Mariano_AU on Instagram, and leave some DMs there, comments on my posts, and comments in the YouTube comments section are welcome. Keep up with us there and on Spotify, and questions, comments, always welcome.
Yeah, and let us know, what are your favorite SpongeBob episodes? What are your favorite quotes? Which character has said most of your favorite quotes? Do you want us to list some more of ours in the future? Because again, we could go on for a while about this. But any sort of comments, ideas, suggestions, please let us know, and they could be featured in a future episode.
Yeah. Well, until next time, everybody take care.
So long.